Welcome back to another edition of the Prepper Recon podcast. Our mission is to bring you great interviews with preppers from around the world so you can be better informed and better prepared for everything from a hurricane to the end of the world as we know it. This episode is brought to you by CampingSurvival.com. Whether your plan is to bug out or bug in, CampingSurvival.com has all of your preparedness needs, including bug-out bags, long-term storage food, water filters, gas masks, and first aid kits. Check them out online today at CampingSurvival.com. Be sure to enter coupon code PREPPERRECON for a 5% discount on your entire order.
Times have never been so uncertain. Being prepared has never been so critical. Natural disasters, economic uncertainty. Be ready for whatever life throws at you. Come to the Life Changes Be Ready Preparedness and Gun Expo at the Lakeland Center, exit 31 off I-4. Saturday, November 2nd and Sunday, November 3rd. See the best in firearms products and hear from experts like YouTube Southern Prepper 1 David Kobler, best-selling author James Wesley Rawles, gun law attorney John Guttmacher, and many others. For details, visit lifechangesbeready.com.
Today's guest is Cindy Thompson of Fortress Management Group. She's also the organizer of the upcoming Life Changes Be Ready Preparedness and Gun Expo in Lakeland, Florida. That'll be taking place on November 2nd and 3rd. Cindy, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Oh, absolutely, and it's great to have you on. Tell us a little bit about the upcoming Life Changes Be Ready Preparedness Expo.
Well, like you said, the expo is going to be held November 2nd and November 3rd in Lakeland, Florida, which is about halfway between Orlando and Tampa. And this will be the second event that Fortress Management Group has put on. And I'd like to give a little history of the event when you have time for that. But we have an incredible lineup of speakers. I can't say enough about how honored we are to have many of our speakers attending. The attendees will get 8 hours of solid speaking presentation time. And actually it's multiplied by 2 because we'll have 2 rooms going on at once. So we also have this time around 5 premium classes that I've never seen offered at any event like this. So we're real excited. So I hope people can come out on November 2nd and November 3rd.
Yeah, well, I'll be there for sure.
Yep.
So when did you personally wake up to the need to prepare? And what was the catalyst for your awakening?
Well, I like to tell people that our training ground, and meaning my husband and I, our family, was the Y2K threat, I guess I should say. You know, the government spent how many millions or billions of dollars to make that a non-issue. But that was our training ground. That's where we shifted our lifestyle, realized, you know, we needed to take charge in several areas of our lives. And ever since that time, we've been living the life of preparation. I think what really kind of jump-started it, if you want to call it, it was a spark plug or something. My husband and I were very involved in real estate in the late 90s into the early 2000s, running up to the incredible real estate run-up that we had in 2004, 2005. And the role I played in our business was I was the negotiator. We were doing short sales before anybody else knew what short sales were. Today, everybody knows what they are, but I was a negotiator with the bank. And I started really realizing a real shift. I like to really make relationships with these banks, and that's what enabled us to get a lot of the deals done that we were, you know, pushing to get done. But there was a dramatic shift, and it was at that time that my husband and I just kind of started taking a look at things. And this was before the bailouts. This was leading up to the bailouts right before that. And we just stepped back and we felt like, well, here we were on the ground in Florida, noticing this day-to-day interaction changing with the banks. And we decided, you know what, we need to get our house in order. And that meant on a lot of fronts. But we saw that situation that kind of sparked us, and we saw the economy headed towards some difficult times. And so that's what started us. That's what jump started us, I guess I should say. In 98, 99, we were doing some prep for Y2K. But then when we saw what was happening around us and in our daily business life, we decided to really take action and start prepping more and getting some more materials in and so forth at that time.
Good decision. And how long has Fortress Management been putting on preparedness expos?
Well, Fortress Management Group actually started putting on events in about 2004. But like I just discussed, we were heavily involved in real estate investing. So our background was putting on events in the real estate world, real estate conferences and so forth. This expo, Life Changes Be Ready, Preparedness and a Gun Expo, in November will be our second Preparedness Expo. Let me just back up and say, when my husband and I started realizing the need personally to prepare, what we did was I went out, and I had already been grinding our own wheat since 1999 and doing some of that, but I went out to look for some of what I called the premium products that I knew were the premium products that we hadn't purchased at that point, and I couldn't find anybody locally anyway that carried them. And so it was at that time that I decided, we already had a couple companies formed, that I would just go ahead and open up some dealerships through our companies. And if I couldn't find it, others couldn't. And so I thought, well, I'll just open up a dealership and offer some of these products. About that same time after we did that, we started doing little mini seminars. First one ever was actually in our home, and then we expanded a little bit, moving to, a couple little small venues. Excuse me, but that was just my husband and I doing it. So about a year ago, and we kind of let that kind of lay low as different aspects of our other businesses picked up. But a year ago in October, some people that had attended one of our little in-home event or community event asked us to come and speak in Seminole County, Florida, and they knew that we had various products, and they asked us to bring various products to this small rural community, Geneva, Florida, which is a Seminole County, is right outside of Orange County, Florida, but rural. So we had this event in this it had to only have been 2,000 square foot community center. And we had 4 tables. I had myself, my husband, I had just been introduced to essential oils at that time, and I had a woman there that was more or less the expert on that because I was still on a learning curve. And then we had one of our firearm instructors that we do a lot with there also. Well, anyway, I say all that to say the 4 of us, literally, in this little community event, never stopped talking all day. I mean, all day. I tell people, literally, I had to go over to a couple tables over and get a slice of homemade bread from a woman who happened to have some at, her display. That was my lunch. And what that did for us is it showed us what a hunger there was out there for knowledge. This event wasn't even advertised. This was just to get this community pulled together in one direction. And so we thought, what if we did that in our community in Brevard County? We're located in Brevard County, Florida. And it just kind of grew from there. And we ended up in Volusia County for the first Life Changes Be Ready Preparedness and Gun Expo. And then after seeing the response at that is what prompted us to do a second expo. So long answer to your question, but Fortress Management Group has been putting on events, conferences, expos since 2004, but just in a couple different areas.
And then what kind of response did you get to the expo in January?
It was an incredible response. Let me say this. We put this expo, we had this little community event in October, so a year ago. We decided to move forward and do one in Volusia County up near Daytona in January. So from about Thanksgiving to the 3rd week in January, we built this expo from the ground up. Website, speakers, exhibitors, everything. And we had an incredible response. We had several thousand people there. One of the most rewarding things when it was all done was, Jim and I reflect on this, is that just the atmosphere there it was just wonderful. It was families, it was husbands and wives. We again saw the hunger for knowledge. You would literally see husbands and wives standing outside the 2 speaking rooms going, okay, you go here and take notes, and I'll go here and take notes, and then we'll meet and we'll compare. They didn't want to miss a thing. And then they were really anxious to buy, premium products that were displayed on the expo floor. And that's one thing that I like to emphasize, is that, we're not just throw whatever out there on the expo floor. We're selective. We want the products that we feel will really help people on their journey to, self-reliance or self-sustaining lifestyle. So it was a huge success, and we have several of our speakers and vendors coming back.
And you have some big names, keynote speakers this year. Can you give us a quick rundown of who's going to be speaking at the Expo?
I can. And again, we are honored to have some of these individuals. We do have several that are returning, but we also wanted to introduce some new people to our expo. So our keynote this year is David Kobler, who most people know as Southern Prepper One on YouTube. David has an incredible knowledge on, I want to say, everything and everything. So we're looking forward to having David here. So he is our keynote. Our keynote medical speakers are Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy. They were at our January expo. They are also Floridians, so we're thrilled to have them back. They will be speaking on survival medicine. David's speaking on security, retreat security, and his second topic he's still undecided on. But another big name that we have is James Wesley Rawles. And James Rawles was with us in January, did a fabulous job. This time, he's coming out with his book. I think it's any day now, this month anyway. He's coming out with his newest novel. And part of that book is based in Central Florida, in Tavares, Florida. And so I have asked James Rawles, to speak specifically to Floridians on what we can do for those of us that are in Florida, that it looks like we're going to stay here in Florida for whatever reason. If he could speak directly to us now that he has a history and an understanding of our area here in Florida. Another big name is John Guttmacher. John is in Florida, the firearms expert on law. He's an attorney. John does not do many speaking engagements. John was with us in January, did an incredible job. This time he's speaking on self-defense in Florida after the Zimmerman case. So you will get some really pertinent information from John, up-to-date information. Another name that we have is Michael Ferris. Michael Ferris is coming to us from the National Office, the Convention of States Project, and we're thrilled to have Michael. I sought out to get a Florida representative from their organization, and it turns out Michael Ferris is coming. So we are thrilled to have Michael Ferris, and we can talk a little bit about him in just a minute. I don't know how many you want me to list, Mark, but Tom McCubbin, who is a Central Floridian, who is a radio host, has his own gardening show. He will be there too. He's an expert on Florida gardening for sure, gardening in general. We have Dr. Kirk Elliott coming in from Colorado. I heard Kirk at a local 912 meeting. Needed somebody to speak on precious metals and how to protect and preserve assets. He did an incredible job explaining where our economy is, and just his delivery was wonderful. I walked straight up to him afterwards and asked if he would come back in November, and we're thrilled to have him. He is coming back. So, and then we have Marjory Wildcraft, and Marjory is doing she's speaking twice, but she's also doing a very unique premium class that I have never seen done, and I've asked her to do this because I wanted to bring in a different aspect to our expo, and she's doing a premium class on home butchering and a demonstration right there at our event. So we're thrilled to have Marjory, and Marjory again is an expert on many topics. She'll be speaking on gardening as well as how to find a perfect retreat too, and of course the home butchering aspect. So if you'd like, I can highlight some more, or they can go to our website at lifechangesbeready.com, and all the speakers are up there along with their bios and all the premium classes. We are adding one more premium class, and that's going to be how to build a bow. If you were out in the woods and needed some protection, needed some food, it's how to build a bow and an arrow just walking out in the woods. So that's another premium class we're offering.
Ah, very cool. And you mentioned
Yeah.
Michael Ferris, and you said he's going to be speaking on the Constitution. Do you feel like the present administration is adhering to the standards set forth by our founders?
Absolutely not.
No.
I don't know how else to answer that. And
Well, why not?
I like to say we are in a battle. We are in a battle for our nation spiritually, morally, and economically, politically, for everything that our founders ever stood for. We're battling for today. We're battling for our liberties, and I don't know what it's going to take to turn it around. I know, one reason we invited Michael Ferris as I was doing I sought direction for our expo. We felt like we wanted to open it up to the grassroots. The grassroots organizers, or those who are out doing the job for us. A lot of them are attendees, but more than that, what we felt like is, we can teach people to prep, how to put food away, how to purify their water, and that's what we're going to do. But we're not advocates of going hiding in a bunker or in a sandhill, if you will, in Florida. We feel like, let's get our house in order, whether that means asset protection, and our water and our food storage and our firearms and various aspects. But let's also give people a productive way to change the direction that we see our country going. And that's really why we reached out to the Convention of States Project, and, Michael Ferris said, title of Michael's presentation is How We Can Use the Power of the States to Stop the Abusive Power of Washington, D.C. So again, another long answer to your short question, but no, I don't think that our country and the present administration is adhering to what our founders had at their heart and what they outlined for us constitutionally.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. And then we're also in a battle legally, because
Right.
the Constitution is the foundation for our entire legal system.
Absolutely.
So if we have a government that's not following those principles, we're in anarchy.
Yep.
And what about the exhibitors? Can you tell us some of the featured exhibitors?
Yes. What I'd like to do is kind of just, because we have several in different categories, and I'll just kind of give the categories of types of things that will be exhibited rather than the actual names. The names may be hard to catch, or you may not realize what the name actually has behind it. So we will have one of our sponsors is Cheap Treasures, and they will be there with coins. And we also have Kurt Elliott, who will be representing, investments as far as precious metals and so forth. And then we have all kinds of survival gear, heirloom seeds, holster companies, firearm companies, gardening supplies, tower gardens, ammunition, we have firearm training being offered. On the health end, we have essential oils. We have the School of Natural Healing there. David Christopher is coming back. I didn't mention him in our speaker lineup, but what an incredible guy, learning to use herbs and essential oils in the face of the healthcare system that we're faced with today. We have a couple companies representing alternative energy sources. Another one that is a new exhibitor is, their actual name is Our Vital Earth. They use earthworms to decompose and make fertilizer for your garden. We have freeze-dried food companies, water purifiers, solar ovens. Another new one for us that I was really thrilled, we have a couple companies coming representing various beekeeping supplies and materials for beekeeping. We have the archery, Scott Moore coming out of South Carolina. Like I said, he'll be doing a premium class, but he's also we're going to have a indoor archery range where, Scott will create this archery range and people will have an opportunity to try out traditional bows and so forth that he has. So we've got a wide variety. We're trying to cover every possible topic. And like I said, we seek premium products. So
very cool. And the government's buying ammo like never before.
Yep.
DHS, a domestic agency, is purchasing a large amount of military-style armored vehicles. Do you think they're anticipating widespread civil unrest?
This is my personal opinion, but yes, I do. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories and that kind of thing, but yes, I do think they're building up for it. They're anticipating it. Whether they want it to go that way or not, I'll leave that open to the listeners to decide.
Yeah, well, whether it's planned or not, it looks like there is a really good chance of us having some sort of an economic shock, and a lot of big names are agreeing with that fact now. Do you think more and more people are gradually waking up to the mathematical certainty of a severe economic shock?
I do. I kind of worried about that. Several years ago, especially when we got started, we kind of jump-started our prep, a lot of people weren't. And we do have the Glenn Becks out there and even, the Mark Levins and the Rush Limbaugh. Glenn's probably been one of the biggest voices as far as, preparing goes. But I still felt like, I don't know if they're waking up. And unfortunately, we live in a society, I feel like, that until it touches people personally, it doesn't really affect them. However, I do think that is changing. I think in some way, form, shape, here we are in Brevard County, we have the Kennedy Space Center. Obviously, that's shut down right now with the government shut down and so forth. But even with all the layouts prior to today, it's touching people. And so I think more people are aware. It's just what their response to that is, whether they go to the entitlement side or whether they, decide to personally take responsibility for what they see coming.
And what about this upcoming debt ceiling debate? Does that have the potential to cause some severe problems?
Oh, I think so. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if we keep getting the political wrangling that we just saw that caused the government shutdown recently, and if they can't get some sort of an agreement, yeah.
We're on a downward spiral. I don't know how else to say it. I'm just hoping that we don't go down too fast.
Yeah, I hope that more and more people have time to get prepared for it. I think it's like you said. I think it's inevitable. Yeah, I think that if we don't pass the debt ceiling, then we have to live on the $2.5 trillion that we're bringing in revenue every year, which our government can't do. They need $3.5 trillion to keep operating at the level that they're currently operating. And if they had to live on the $2.5 trillion, then a lot of things would get cut. And one of those things might be might be the SNAP program, and
Yep.
that might really upset a lot of people that have been trained for multiple generations that they're not responsible for taking care of themselves, and that somebody else is responsible for taking care of them, and they don't really know who that person is that takes care of them. They just know that they're taken care of. And when it's not, and when they're not taken care of anymore, I think that they'll lash out at everybody because everybody is responsible for taking care of them, everybody except them.
Yep.
So I think that that's got a lot of potential to cause severe problems. So
And along that line, I don't have the article printed out in front of me, but there was an article this morning that actually we're going to highlight in our email blast that's coming out this week. And the title of it was, "These are not the normal activities of a government planning for peace and stability." This kind of gets back to your civil unrest question too, tied in with the whole debt ceiling and every direction that our country is going right now. But at the end of that article, and I forget who the author is, and I'm sorry about that, but it basically states, if you read the end of that article, you better get prepared. So, whatever factor that economics, politically, some people might prepare for other reasons, but our country, I truly believe, is in a downward spiral. And each one of these events, whether it's the debt ceiling discussion going on or, several of the others that are front and foremost, it's driving us down.
yeah, recently in Janet Napolitano's retirement or exit speech, or whatever you want to call her little speech, she said that it was a certainty that we would have a grid failure at some point. It's not if, but when. And then we live in a hurricane-prone area. Last year, Hurricane Sandy really showed how vulnerable folks are to natural disasters, and those happen every day. Do you think
Yes, they do.
Do you think that the folks on the East Coast learned their lesson, or do you think they've already forgotten?
I'd like to hope that they've learned their lesson, but I think, you get 6 months past something and people forget. They forget. We just look at, even here in Florida, let's bring it back to Florida. People don't really, we have hurricanes. Think about what happened in 2004. We had an incredible hurricane year. And yet, if there was one approaching our coastline today, how many people do you think were already prepared for that? You'll find out, people in Florida don't prepare until the cone is definitely headed their way. And then you quickly find out, and it's a learning lesson for those of us who recognize the need for preparation, how quickly everything is wiped out, in 3 days. When that cone is 48 hours away, Lowe's has no more plywood, Publix, Walmart, they're all sold out of every canned good, peanut butter, everything. And so it's an example, but have they learned? Mark, I have to say probably not, or they've forgotten. Yeah.
We forget fast. I was in Fort Lauderdale for Hurricane Wilma, and we lost power for a couple of weeks after that storm. And it was a Category 1 storm.
Right.
But we lost power for 2 weeks. And the grocery shelves were shut down because with no power, there's no electricity and there's no cash register, there's no ATM cards, there's no
refrigeration,
there's no nothing. So
right.
The doors were just locked, and most of that stuff went in the garbage, similar to what we saw in Hurricane Sandy on the northeast coast. I think we saw affluent people up there digging through dumpsters, picking out cans and things that had been thrown in the dumpsters. Now, after we finally got the power restored, it was still probably 2 weeks before the meat shelves were restocked and everything was restocked because of our current just-in-time inventory system. It just doesn't work like that. It's built to sort of trickle charge the grocery shelves, which on average have about 3 days worth of food in any city.
Right. And, there's a number of things. Yes, a hurricane will shut down that supply line, but there's other things that'll shut down the supply line too. We're just so dependent on what I like to call a grab and go society that we don't realize take any one thing out. I mean, let's say the internet shuts down. How many businesses does that upset? How many trucking routes get stonewalled in a sense because they're so dependent on the internet. I mean, there's any number of things that could take out our supplies. And that's why I think it's prudent to prepare. I like to tell people we live in a rural community. There are some days, and this may sound sad to a lot of your listeners, but I really don't have to leave my home front. We call it going into town. It's about 10 to 12 miles into town. It's not even a big town, but I really don't need to. And there's a piece about that, that I could be here and not have to run anywhere. And I like that. I won't just call it security, but I think it's frugal too, So I wish more people would open up to the fact to just kind of get their household in order and not be so dependent on the systems that we allow to run our lives.
Very good advice. High priority 911 calls in Detroit have an average response time of 58 minutes. Do you think municipal budget cuts will continue to create longer response times for emergency, medical, and police?
Absolutely. I can only see that, as well as what we have going on today. I don't know I haven't taken time to figure out how that trickles down to our local police force and so forth with the government shutdown. But yes, I do. And that's why I think it's necessary to not only have firearms and have firearm training in your home, but also to have some of the basic skills, some of the basic medical skills that we've, become reliant on 911 to fix up, or driving somebody to an urgent care clinic. Well, that may not be possible. So if people are able to get those basic skills, then it's not such a threat to have to wait on 911 to get there, whether that's police or ambulance or whatever it might be.
And Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy, they're really good at teaching basic first aid skills for your home as well. And
they are excellent, and they are doing their premium class on suturing too, where you learn to suture up on a pig's foot of all things. But it's a hands-on, and I think that is just a skill that everybody needs to have. Even if you live out like we do, even if there aren't budget cuts, it takes them a while to get out here. So just having some of those basic EMT / medical skills is really important.
And you mentioned the importance of getting firearms trainings after people buy their defensive weapon, because if you don't have training, you're not really going to be
effective.
Effective, sure.
Yeah. We're big advocates of that. Jim and I, our kids are all trained, and we do drills in our house. I think everybody needs to think through their own residence and how they would protect it. We let our guard down at home a lot, but yet what are we seeing on the rise? We're seeing home invasions on the rise. So it's kind of a, ironic thing that's where we put our concealed weapon. We come in the door and take it off or whatever, but in reality, that might be where we need it. So my husband is real good about putting us through some drills, and he likes to tell in some of our firearm classes, how he had to get me to the point where I would actually shout some stuff and, make me realize the racking of that shotgun is a universal sound. And so I think it's very important to not only get your concealed carry, we'll talk about the concealed carry, but also to get the training. And you won't find a concealed carry class at our expo. And the reason is I'm not an advocate of that. I don't want to downplay anybody that's gotten one at a gun show or whatever, but that's not adequate training even to get your concealed carry license. So I will not allow that at our expo, but I do really emphasize that people need to go out and get the training. And even after you get that, we like to take people out to a private range where we can practice drills that you don't typically get to do at a firing range, an indoor range, or even outdoor ranges a lot, where you can draw from your holster and shoot from the ground and shoot in different positions. And I think that's real important that people find that. And if anybody's at our expo, they're more than welcome to talk to us. We have another business called Fortress Tactical Defense where we do exactly that type of training.
And that's all advanced firearms training.
It is. It is. I mean, we started at the beginner, and like we work with groups, and they might start beginner, and then we'll just kind of keep bringing them up a different level. So, but it's all about being familiar. It's all about, not reacting, but responding and putting your body through different situations. We'll never be able to practice the situation if we're ever faced with the situation, but if your mind has already gone through something similar, you will respond most likely out of that muscle memory and just the emotional aspect of it that you've already put yourself through. So that's what we strive to do.
And you mentioned earlier in the show, one of the guests is going to be John Guttmacher, and he's going to be speaking on Florida law as it pertains to defensive shootings. How important is it to know your legal rights before using lethal force?
It's very important. We're a big advocate. If you're going to carry, you need to get a copy, and not only a copy, but you need to read John Guttmacher's book. And I know he's one of our speakers, but I cannot say enough about John. He writes this book. He updates this book. This right now, the 7th edition is out. He rewrites it every couple years based on the laws, that have changed in our state, specifically to the state of Florida. I will say that. He doesn't necessarily want to be an advocate of, what his book says carrying over into Georgia or Alabama or whatever. But absolutely, I think it's crucial that everybody knows the laws before they carry,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll be at the expo signing copies of my new book, American Exit
Yes.
Strategy, book 1 of the Economic Collapse Chronicles. I'll also be interviewing some exhibitors and attendees for a podcast while I'm at the expo. So
Great.
to any listeners who can make it, please stop by and say hi. And of course, we'll have links in today's show notes to the Life Changes Be Ready Expo website. But for the folks listening on Stitcher, iTunes, or YouTube, Cindy, can you tell them where they can find you and how to get tickets or sign up as an exhibitor?
Sure. Our website again is lifechangesbeready.com. Everything is up on our website. We have tickets for sale right now, and I like to make a point too. Our tickets are $7 for one day, $12 for two. I can't emphasize, coming from the background of doing real estate conferences, how much value you are getting for, let's say, your $12 ticket. This is just an incredible value with the speakers alone, not even mentioning some of the classes and all. So the tickets are on there, lifechangesbeready.com. You can see all of our speakers' bios, the dates, the times. If you have any questions, you can contact us. There's a contact us button. It'll come right into our email system. Any exhibitors that are out there, we still have room. It's filling up quickly, but we still have room. Contact us immediately, and we'd love to get you involved.
Cindy, thanks so much for coming on the show, and I'm so excited about the expo.
Oh, we're excited to have you.
Absolutely.
So we'll look forward to a great weekend.
Hey, Prepper Recon fans, I just published my new book, American Exit Strategy, book 1 of the Economic Collapse Chronicles. Liberty-minded individuals who believe in the Constitution will find this near-future dystopian novel to be right up their alley. Those who are looking to be more informed about the potential threats to America's financial stability will learn what to watch for and how to prepare themselves for an economic collapse. American Exit Strategy uses survival fiction to take an in-depth look at the real-life politics and economics behind the issues that are likely to trigger a currency collapse or financial meltdown in the near future. American Exit Strategy is a work of fiction until it becomes history. Go to AmericanExitStrategy.com today to learn more or purchase your copy for Kindle in PDF format or paperback. Happy prepping.